Welcome back to A View to a Grill. I'm Johnny. Today I'm going to share with you my grilling experience on the Goldens Cast Iron Kamado. We're going to be talking about things like maintenance, and I'm going to show you how versatile this Kamado actually is for grilling. The first thing I want to show you is some exterior maintenance. To wash my Kamado is pretty simple. All I do is use some Dawn dishwashing liquid and some warm water, a towel, and a brush. I'll do this about once every other month, where I'll wash off the Goldens Cast Iron Kamado and then just use my water hose and rinse it off well. Then I can take my leaf blower and blow off all the excess moisture, and then finally I'll just dry it off with a cotton towel. Now let's take a look at the shelves on the Goldens Cast Iron Kamado. Here you can see that I have actually damaged it a little bit. Whenever I set these grates on top, sometimes I'll hit the paint and it does chip that paint off. Now on that top rail, you can see that it is all intact. I have learned my lesson, and now I put down a towel before I start taking off the grates, and that has protected my paint a lot better. You can get this Kamado in either stainless steel or the Trex boards. Mine have the Trex boards, and these little melted spots is when hot coals fall out of the bottom of my chimney starter. I usually load the hot coals from the right, and over here on the left you can see that it's pretty pristine. An aftermarket product I use is this mat. This mat is just to catch drippings and that sort of thing, because it's easier to clean the mat than it is to clean my pavers. And after 2 years, it is still looking good, still made in the USA. I do have some plans of customizing this more to my taste. And here's a little preview. I'm going to be using these Ipe wood planks to replace the Trex boards. The Goldens Cast Iron uses a tell-true thermometer, and the handle is made out of wood. The top vent has a single pivot point, and it stays where you put it. And the bottom vent is a combo fire screen and door, which slides easily. Here are some of the tools that I use for the Goldens Cast Iron Kamado. I use a putty knife. You can get this great tool from the Goldens Cast Iron website, but I actually like these hose clamp pliers better. Find it helpful to have an aftermarket thermometer for grate level temperatures. Also like this ThermoWorks IR gun when I'm using the sear plate for smash burgers. Something else that I have is this ash sweep, but I really don't find myself using it that much. Instead, I use this rechargeable vacuum cleaner. If you get a vacuum cleaner for your Kamado, it's very important to have one with a hose that actually fits through the bottom vent. And occasionally, I do find myself needing to get a little aggressive with the grates, and I'll use this CitraSafe grill cleaner. Here's something I use for every cook. It is this old-fashioned straw whisk broom. Now that you've seen the tools that I use for the Goldens Cast Iron Kamado, let's talk about interior maintenance. We'll get the lid open and take a look at that. Everything inside of there is beautifully seasoned. The reason why everything is seasoned well is because I do certain things before and after every cook, or at least periodically through the month. First, let's take a look at this sear plate. To lift the sear plate, there's this hole in one of the tabs, and then there's also this hole at the top of the sear plate where you would normally use this grate lifting tool. I have foil in the hole of my sear plate, so that's when I use my hose clamp pliers. I can pick up the sear plate just like this with the hose clamp over the lip of the sear plate, or I can use that hole in the tab and just lift it straight up. And I can always just use my hands. So let's go ahead and get those hose clamps and remove the sear plate from the Goldens Cast Iron Kamado. Probably the most asked question about the Kamado is, does it have a rusting problem? On the underside of the grate, there is a little bit of rust. That is due to the center of the grill being the hottest part of the Kamado, and it usually burns the seasoning off at that point. These grill grates are made so that you can sear on either side of the grill grates, and if I use the flat side for searing, then I like to use my putty knife to lightly scrape off some of the burnt on material that is stuck to the grill grates. A lot of people call that seasoning, but that does not taste good. I want it off of my grill grates. For that finishing touch to clean those off, I'll use the whisk broom and just sweep off any material that might be left on. And there you go, check this out. Beautiful grill grates ready for searing. I use this whisk broom before and after every grilling session, and the reason why is because it's stiff. It will take off some of that material on the grill that you do not want, and it also extends past the bottom of the grates, so you're able to sweep away from in between the grill grates as well. The last thing I'll do is wipe off any excess oil. And then there you have beautifully seasoned grill grates. This grill grate tool does work really well, but sometimes it will have this problem where if you turn the top of the tool, the grates will tend to slip off. And that's the reason why I use my hose clamp pliers. Now that we have those grill grates off, let's take a look inside the Kamado. So when I'm grilling, I always like to have two zones of cooking, and that's why you see the divider plate in now. The left side was my hot zone, the right side was my cool zone. So here's the sear plate, and you can see that there is a light patina of rust on there. And I don't know how to really explain that, but it is not a deep corrosive rust. And then if you look at the sides of the firebox, you don't see any rust on the sides at all. And the depth of the fire pot is about 9.5 inches deep. And here I have some leftover charcoal from the last cook. To clean that up, all I'm going to do is use my half tong and move that around a little bit to knock off some of the old ash. Then I'll place the palm of my hand on the side of the divider plate. Use my other hand and grab the top of the divider plate. And then I'll push with my palm and guide it with the hand on the top of the divider box and just spin it 180 degrees. Now if you look at the bottom of the fire pot, you'll see some loose ash. I cannot stop saying fire pot. We're just gonna go with it. I'll then just take my vacuum and vacuum all of that out. And then you can take a look in there and it's pretty clean. Now to clean the other side of the fire pot, I'll do the exact same thing, spin it another 180 degrees, and then we can take our vacuum cleaner out and vacuum that ash out just like we did for the other side. If you want, you can use your putty knife to scrape off any excess material on the top of your fire pot. Now this fire pot is just sitting in there. There are no bolts or anything holding it down. The folks at Goldens Cast Iron did a really good job at measuring, and look at this, the blade of the putty knife fits perfectly in between the fire pot and the inside of the Kamado. And then here comes that whisk broom again. I'll just sweep off any loose material right into the bed of charcoal. And now let's take a look at the space between the bottom of the fire pot and the bottom of the Kamado. Now remember, when we were spinning that divider plate around, it was doing two things. It was knocking off the old ash from the charcoal, and it was also pushing ash through the bottom holes. Take a look at this. Here's all the ash that fell through the holes. Now we can just grab our vacuum cleaner and the vacuum cleaner hose and just vacuum out all of the ash. I don't think I do this anymore, but if you wanted to, you can take your ash sweeper and bring up some more ash to the front and vacuum that out as well. To maintain the inside of the lid, you don't want any loose material falling on your food. Maybe every other week I might take my whisk broom and just brush out the inside of the lid and brush any loose material right into the fire pot. Clean off the whisk broom, all I do is scrape it on the divider plate. Now let's light up the Goldens Cast Iron Kamado. In case you didn't know, Goldens Cast Iron makes their own blend of oak and mesquite hardwood lump charcoal. To light up the GCI, Most of the time you see people using some type of igniter like this fire cup, and they just put it right onto the charcoal that is in the Kamado. However, I think that takes a long time, so I like to use my chimney starter. So I have my small chimney starter and it's filled all the way to the top. I'll use my fire cup to get that started. Once I see the top coals ashing over, I'll then pour that right on top of the used charcoal from our last cook. I'll make sure that the bottom vent is wide open, and then I'll spread the charcoal around for even heat distribution. Now I'll sweep off any ash that may have gotten onto my grill grates. And then I'll grab my second grill grate and put it on top of the grill grate that was already there. Not over the fire, because as that fire is heating up, I don't want to burn off any of the seasoning on the grill grate. Now let me show you how versatile the Goldens Cast Iron is for grilling. For the griddle, I like to have a 2-zone cooking, so my left side will be the hot zone and my right side will be the cool zone. We'll get the sear plate down and let that heat up, and then here you go, smash burgers on the Kamado. The reason why I like to have a cool zone and hot zone, even for the griddle, is so I can do something like this. Hamburger assembly on the cool side. Another thing that highlights the versatility of the Goldens Cast Iron Kamado are 5 levels of cooking. Level 1 is the bake zone. Down here I will put whole potatoes or husk on corn on the cob. Level 2 is our sear zone, and that's where I turn over one of the grates and get it closer to the fire. And once I've done that, I can heat this sucker up and it will put a fantastic sear on whatever protein you're trying to sear. And then my third level is the indirect zone. And here's where I'll start off the cooking of any protein for, let's say, a reverse sear. For the 4th level of cooking, I'll stack a grate on the cool side of the grill. And then I'll use these upside down grids to make it easier to slide on and off and easier to rotate whatever protein I'm cooking. The Goldens Cast Iron has so much headroom in the lid that you can go 3 grates high. That's level 3, 4, and 5. Now, I have never stacked my grill grates up 3 levels high for cooking, but if I wanted to, I could. And then over here on the hot side of the grill, you can then finish off whatever you're cooking. Today I'll be baking some potatoes, grilling some corn, and searing these fantastic looking prime ribeye steaks. If you want to see the entire cook for this prime ribeye steak, check out the link in the card. The potatoes are going to take the longest, so we're going to get those started now. I like my potatoes to be above 210 degrees of internal temperature, so I'm going to plug each of them with my ThermalWorks square dot thermometer and set the alarm to go off at 210 degrees. And just for some time reference, it is about 5 o'clock. This Kamado has a lot of draw to it, and as seen on my Instagram page, look at the flames coming out of the top of this grill. Now you know I'm on Instagram. Go ahead and follow me over there as well. My potatoes are going right now, and you see the wires coming out. The cast iron grates are not crimping them at all, and we're saving the seasoning where I'm going to be searing later. It is 5:30, and I guess that's about 425 degrees. The potatoes are halfway there, so we're going to go ahead and put our corn down. Now, another question that I get a lot is, doesn't cast iron get blazing hot? Now, if you recall, we were at about 425 degrees. Let me show you some temperature readings using my ThermalWorks IR gun on the outside of the Kamado. Right here on that ring around the lid, it's about 210 degrees. The handle, the wooden handle, is registering about 188 degrees. Now, I know that sounds hot, but it really isn't that hot. And then the area right over the handle is registering at almost 250 degrees. And shooting that area right where the fire is, it's coming in at a little over 325 degrees. Now the corn is at a stage I need to take that off, but the potatoes are still on, and I need to get the steak ready for searing. I have the second grate turned over and over the fire so it can start getting hot. And I have the steaks on a rack on the cool side of the grill. And then when it's time to sear, we're just gonna grab those steaks and put them right on that blistering hot grill grate. And here's the reason why I use the flat side of the grill grate. Take a look at this sear. This is a 100% cast iron sear, and just look how beautiful that is. Now we're gonna go back, get our corn, and start putting some color on those kernels. Here's where I like mine, so I'm done with that. We have the potatoes out, and check out this steak. Man, that steak is beautiful. And it tasted pretty damn good. But we're not done. We have to do our shutdown routine. I do this after every grilling session because it's easiest to do this while the grill is hot. I'll just get my whisk broom, brush off any loose material that might be on the grill grates, get everything put back into the Kamado, and then just spray everything down with a little bit of oil. Then I'll get my sear plate, put that in, and spray it very lightly as well. Close the lid, make sure the top vent is closed, and then make sure that the bottom vent is closed. You are done. Now, if you haven't already subscribed to my channel, subscribe to the channel. Thank you for watching a View to a Grill. I'll see you guys next time. Take care, y'all.